Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I've had quite a few requests about, and that is technique. Now, everyone's technique is completely different. Stance, grip, bridge distance from cue ball, back arm, the list goes on. The first thing I want to get across is that what works for some people might not necessarily work for you. There's so many people try and emulate other players' techniques, and as I mentioned, it might work for them, it may not work for you. So of course we can take little snippets, try it. If a certain bridge works for you, then great, we can add it to your game, but trying to completely copy someone else's technique is quite hard to do. We need to make our technique our own, it needs to be unique. So what would you say is the perfect technique, and who has the perfect technique? I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that, so please do leave a comment down below and I will get back to you on that. So today what I want to talk about is I'm going to take you through my technique. So I'm not saying that my technique is the best, because it isn't, but it works for me. And if there's things in my technique that you can add to your game, then great. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is the grip. So let's talk about the grip. Now, if there was ever anything that gets overcomplicated, it's this, okay? So we get asked, how do we grip the cue? Well, do we put all four fingers and thumb on the cue? Do we have index finger and thumb and the others just resting? Do we grip it tight? Do we grip it loose? What happens when the arm comes back? Does the wrist break? So many things people ask the question of, and this is just, it can be so overcomplicated. So the first thing we need to do is pick the cue up, take it in your hand like that, okay? So not too tight. We don't want to be too tight where there's no give at the back. You want to be a little bit loose so the cue can come through like that. But you don't want to be too loose that when you deliver the cue, it slips out of your hand. So it's as simple as that, okay? So not too tight, not too loose. So what I do, I have thumb and index finger on the cue. So basically just taking the weight of the cue. The other three fingers are basically just resting on the cue. And as the cue comes through, they will slightly just tighten up, just so I don't let go of the cue. So if we were going to play a shot, I would take thumb, index finger on the cue, back three fingers just resting. So the only pressure area is my thumb and index finger. The other three are just resting on the cue. Okay, so cue comes back, fingers are still on the cue, but they're nice and loose. The only real pressure point is the thumb and index finger. So just remember those points. Not too tight on the cue, we don't want to throttle it, and not too loose that we're going to make the cue slip out of the hand. Okay, so have a look how you're holding your cue and see if there's any way that that can be improved from what we've just talked about. So don't overcomplicate the grip, okay? This is only a minor thing in your game. There's so many other things that we could spend time working on. So follow those points and we'll see how you do with that one. So let's move on to the next part. So let's move on to the bridge. Now there's not really a lot to say about the bridge. All we're looking to achieve is a nice stable V for our cue to pass through. So the way I do this is hand comes down on the table, my index finger will be slightly across to the right, and the thumb comes up to create the nice V. I feel nice and stable in that position. So I might see some people who their index finger is a little bit more straight, and then they just try and lift the thumb, but now the gap is a little bit wider. This little muscle here on the hand comes into play. It makes everything a little bit more unstable. So if we can, try and bring that index finger round to the right, the thumb comes up, and now we've got a nice V. Cues against the knuckle and the thumb, and everything feels nice and stable. So for me, that's the optimum position for the bridge. Other players, they bring the thumb slightly down, which is lower, and as you can see, the cue will most likely be falling off the hand and become a lot more unstable. So index finger slightly to the right for me, thumb comes up, creates a nice bridge, everything feels really solid. I know the cue's not going to move anywhere, and that's where I feel the optimum position is for the bridge.
So let's get into the next part, and that is stance. So again, people are different heights, which is going to affect the way that they stand, but there's a few key points that we need to look at just to make our stance as stable as possible. So the first thing that I do, I come in with my right foot, which stays nice and straight, left foot plants, which has a nice bend in the knee. So now I'm feeling at this point, I'm nice and stable. I've got the majority of my weight is going to be on my left leg. So we don't want weight on the back leg, we want weight on the front leg, resting on the table. So a little tip, if you're wondering whether you're getting the weight on your front leg, if you lift your hand off the table, you will fall towards the table. So you know that most of your weight is on that left leg. If we were going to put most of our weight on the back leg, then everything becomes a lot more unstable. I can almost feel myself falling backwards. I think the majority of people wouldn't do this anyway. I think they'd realise that it would feel so uncomfortable. But for me, right leg comes in, nice and straight, bend of the left knee. I can feel all my pressure pretty much on this left leg. I feel comfortable, and I feel nice and solid. So you might see other players, for one, world champion Kyron Wilson, Ricky Walden another, when they get down on the shot, you'll notice that they bend both knees when on the shot. This is just something that works for them. Again, there is no right or wrong with the stance, but obviously doing what I've showed you, it probably gives you the best base to work from. Keep the left leg with most of your pressure on. Obviously, if you're left-handed, it'll be the right leg, but most of your pressure on that left leg. Right leg stays nice and straight. Pressure on the left, bend in the knee, and I think you'll feel very comfortable playing it that way.
So now let's move on to the next two things. So bridge distance from the cue ball and your back arm positioning. So for me, when I hold the cue at the back, my arm position never changes. So I will always be striking the ball at what we call vertical. So what I mean by that is, when I'm in the address position, my arm will be that vertical, so it'd be straight down pretty much. So I'm not too far back or too far forward, I'm just nicely at vertical. So around this area, this is where I find I'm more comfortable in that position. So no matter what shot I play, I will always be in that position. So whether it's a shot playing off the cushion, where obviously our hand's now going to be a lot closer to the cue ball. So what I would do, my hand just comes slightly further up the cue to maintain that vertical striking point. So I'll come up a little bit further on the cue. I feel I'm now at that almost vertical point. So again, not too far back, not too far forward. I've just moved slightly up the cue just because I'm a little bit closer to the cue ball now, but I'm still maintaining that vertical arm at the back. So that never changes for me. Now cue ball, the distance I have my hand from the cue ball does slightly change depending on what shot I'm going to play. So I base this on the more power I need, the further away from the cue ball my hand is, and the closer it goes to the cue ball means I need less power. So for example, if I was going to play this red and stun the white dead, I would be just a normal distance away, and that feels nice for me. If I was now going to play a shot where I'm really close to the cue ball and I need very little power, I would come up the cue slightly and I would be a little bit closer to the cue ball. So again, I'm still trying to maintain that vertical forearm. So again, not too far back, not too far forward. So I'm now in a nice position. Because I don't need a lot of power, I don't need a big long backswing. So for me, the closer I am on these shots, I feel that less could go wrong. If I was going to play that shot with a long bridge distance, I feel there's so much that can go wrong. So I've now got a lot of cue at the front of the hand and it becomes a little bit more unstable. So if I was going to play a shot where I now need a lot of power, what I would do, again, my back arm would still be at vertical, but I'd come a little bit further back with my hand. So I'm still at vertical here. All I've done is brought my hand a little bit further back, so I've bent my elbow a little bit more. It's now given me more room to generate more power, so I can bring the cue back and play the red that way. So my back arm never changes from that vertical position, no matter what shot it is, whether I'm playing off the cushion, whether I'm playing a little stun shot, a little delicate shot, or a power shot. This part never changes. It's my hand, it's my bridge distance to the cue ball that does alter slightly. So obviously, the less power, I will be closer in to the cue ball, and the more power, I will be further away. So I hope that makes sense to you all. Obviously, that is just the way I do it. I feel I've got more control doing it that way. Some people keep their bridge distance exactly the same on each shot, and that's absolutely fine. So obviously what works for some might not work for another. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Anyway, I know it's a lot to take in, but as I said, what works for me might not work for you, and it's about finding your own technique and what does work for you. So as always, if you do like the content, please like, share and subscribe. Also, if anyone would like one-to-one coaching with myself here in this room or online sessions, all the info is in the bio, so please do get in touch. But in the meantime, we'll see you soon, and I hope you join me for the next video.